Saltwater History, episode 190, Wednesday night. Richard, what's going on?
Happy feast day of a great saint and, yes, female doctor of the church, Saint Teresa of Jesus, Saint Teresa of Avila, the great Carmelite reformer of the 16th century.
Amen. Talk a
Amen.
little bit more about what you're doing this month for the month of the Rosary.
I dedicated myself to learning and reciting the Rosary in Latin this month, and it is just such a deeper, more profound experience. As you stated just prior to recording, the devil hates Latin, and I do feel there's a musculature type of forcefulness and true virility in the Latin etymological sense of that term, a kind of manliness when you say the prayers in Latin. So it's more forceful and not in the Germanic or Teutonic way of da 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 kind of that, but much just yeah, it's the pronunciation is so evocative of faith and trust in God.
Amen.
Hmm.
You want to talk about a rising star on the scene that we have? Would you call it that? I know she's
She
been around, but
she's been around, but her light has never been brighter. And I have to say, Lord forgive me, I have a deep it's not a coveting, believe me, but if there's one man in this world of whom I am distinctly jealous, it is Anna Kasparian's husband. Or I wouldn't want to be him, but Cenk Uygur, who gets to work with her every day. Because this woman is just on fire. She's taking on all comers, and she is just absolutely without reticence, no reluctance, no hesitation, and has been from the beginning in recognizing the grave injustice that has been perpetuated against the Palestinian people, really since 1947, even before that, and then certainly in the days since October 7th, 2023. And she just does not take shit, and she's wades through all of the bull feces of all of the Zionists and their cuck payees who are out there shooting this garbled, murderous message that, well, the Israelis are somehow in the right here in their war against Hamas. Of course, Hamas was under every building in Gaza, it turned out, and that justified the mass slaughter. Hamas was somehow lurking behind the children lining up for food and medical assistance in lines that the IDF gunned down, or according to the witnesses of Médecins Sans Frontières, the Doctors Without Borders, time after time, nationality after nationality, talking about toddlers and little kids who have bullet wounds to the chest and to the head from IDF snipers. Yeah, they were certainly Hamas. They were the ones who even voted them in when they weren't alive, pre-conception. So yeah, she's just on fire, and she just has is no holds barred. And we need someone who is a bold witness, a true martyr for the cause in the Greek etymological sense of that term. And she is one. Maybe it has something to do with that she's Armenian too. She just has a natural disinclination or enmity for those who want to justify mass slaughter of innocent minority populations in given regions. So we have that. Let's play her a couple of our greatest hits here, Charlie. You want to introduce
let's
the
do the
first
first
clip?
one.
Okay, there you go.
Like, yes, we're gonna surveil everybody. Everyone will be on their best behavior. Yes, you're a freak. You're a total creep.
Okay.
All right.
So she's describing billionaire, one of the richest men, interchanging from time to time with
Top
Elon Musk
five.
that status. Yeah,
Top
he's
five,
always
right?
top five. The founder and CEO of Oracle, not the present CEO. That's some other guy he handed off that maniacal institution to, or maintenance of it and running it, leadership of it. And yeah, he's lauding the Truman Show like security totalitarian state that Oracle's going to make possible and render a reality. And does she have any fear about being labeled an anti-Semite because she's doing a very type of Jewish Zionist conspiring what would you call that? A kind of acting out or mimicking something like that.
A caricature.
Caricature. Yeah, yes, an action caricature of the maniacal Jewish Zionist who's a plotter and really looking out to do something hideous against the Goyim, which
Hmm.
is what Larry Ellison and the Zionists and Netanyahu and all their Likudniks and sad Zionists here studying their ripping through their Schofield Bible as if they're reading it. They're just lapping up the Zionism in it, uh, willfully blind of reality and theology and basic history. But all that being the case, she's just out there, and like I said, we need bold. She's a real. I'm going to go so far as to call her a prophetess, in the sense that she's a true messenger of righteous causes. And blessed be her. She's a peacemaker, and that's what she's advocated for from the beginning. Now, we have to say that she's all the more attractive, and she's all the more her message resounds all the more because it's from a leftist position. She's a thoroughgoing leftist on many other issues and on the core issues that make us ANCAPs. She would be alarmed. But it's what I find so alluring about the silver cloud that comes out of this hideous catastrophe and crime that's committed and the coverage of it more so is that even when she was on with Tucker Carlson, they could talk about in sincerity their differences on economics or social issues, which we would certainly have with Anna Kasparian. But she's much more open to that, to having her mind challenged or her dispositions and biases challenged because we're so good with her on the core issue of protection of innocent life, in this case in Gaza. So even in the Tucker interview, if you, did you see her on the Tucker interview, the Tucker
No.
show? She was she's still, I think, would label herself pro-choice, but you could tell she's wavering big time on that. She can't see or she sees the inherent contradiction of arguing against the wanton slaughter of children and babies outside the womb and then advocating or allowing their slaughter en masse by the millions per year inside the womb in your utero. So she's really mollified her, I think, original position. If you were going to talk to Anna Kasparian, sophomore undergrad, wherever she went, she'd be much more of a radical pro-choicer.
She reminds me of when you've mentioned this a lot, how important ridicule is.
Right. Yes. Yeah. It's so it's so important because there has to be a mechanism by which abnormal destructive behavior or attitudes and dispositions that are malevolent have to be denounced, but as you said, ridiculed, because ridicule is extraordinarily powerful. It produces a hesitancy, a necessary reflection on the value of a position that's held. Now, it could cause initial anger, but that's okay so long as the person comes to understand how absurdly diabolical or destructive or inhumane their previous disposition might be or their present disposition might be. People have to be roused out of the complacency of their ideological status quos. And ridicule is a great tool to do that. Ridicule is a fantastic tool to do that. Again, not necessarily for a person, if you're addressing and dialoguing with a person of goodwill and their position is 1 or 2 degrees, small nuances different from the right position or correct moral, logical conclusion or deduction, using ridicule probably is not the best way to go because they'll feel insulted and they're already on the road. At least they're using, let's say, basic syllogistic logic to arrive at their conclusions. they're leery of contradiction, they're leery of hypocrisy, then ridicule is probably not the best medicine in that type of engagement. But for everyone else, they have to be seen as reprobates, or at least their position is opprobrium. It's awful. It's odious. And there's not, if you look at the institutions that are crumbling and fading away post Vatican II Catholicism, what's the one thing you absolutely cannot do in an ecumenical discussion, in a debate on liturgy, in a debate about how to interpret even the fathers of the church when they're not totally discarded by the progressive ilk and coterie? You cannot ridicule anyone, right? That's so sinful. It's so haughty. It's so, no. I mean, we've talked about this before. Read the fathers of the church. Read St. Paul. Read Christ in the Gospels. Correct? He's full of, he uses ridicule all the time to rouse people. Correct? Even those who are sympathetic and very open to the preaching of the kingdom of God, right? I love one of my favorite stories in the and accounts is the Zacchaeus story, right? In the Synoptics. And I love how Matthew, Mark, is that story in Luke? Well, in Matthew and Mark, I think it's in Luke, but anyway, I think it's in all three. But I love how they include that Zacchaeus climbed the tree to see Jesus because he was so short. Right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Jesus sort of looks up at him and goes, there must have been a bit of laughter there, right? And says, Zacchaeus, come down, right? Come down from the tree. You know, your faith has brought glory to this house, or brought salvation to this house. Yeah, and we'll dine with you. And then the explosive joy and the ebullient, but not hyperbolistic, because he follows through on it. He redeems and pays back all those from whom he stole 77 times over, right? So
Yeah.
that's what's so, or many times over. So he uses, and forget ridicule, he uses outright scorn toward the Sadducees and Pharisees. Outright scorn. Woe to you, whitewashed tombstones. Correct?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's no hesitancy there. I just don't know, especially in the postmodernist world. We're in the postmodernist world right now. How you can project a message that is alluring and attractive today, after all the hemming and hawing and hand wringing that was the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and the triumph of progressive, modernistic, secular progressivism, and people desiring something utterly opposed to that because it's so devoid of life and vitality. If you're not going to use things like ridicule and just courageous expression, unhesitant reaction to bring people in, to boldly proclaim what is the true, the good, and the beautiful. She does it with verve and vivacity, and I mean, it helps that she's beautiful, but you want to go to this second clip that we're going to play of Anna really hits home, and it includes, gotta love the meme makers here and the video makers with the Christian Bale character from American Psycho doing what essentially I would do on a date with Anna Kasparian.
Yeah. The people that are audio only are missing out on this episode.
Well, they're gonna hear the audio of the clips.
Yeah, but they don't get the memes.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry, that's right. Okay. Oh, that's right. They're not gonna hear
see
her,
the
but
meme.
not see
Yeah.
his face. Yeah. Okay, good. Sorry. Let's roll that clip before I say something dumber.
I don't want to hear any whining about the Islamification of your country because of mass migration, because Israel wants to build their empire. Okay? The mass displacement that we've seen in the Middle East is the result of us going into countries, bombing countries, overthrowing, governments that Israel doesn't like. All of that stuff has led to mass migration of Muslims. You think they want to go to your stanky ass country? No, I think they would rather be in their homeland, but they can't live in their homeland because it's been bombed to smithereens. That's the reality of the situation. So if you don't want the Islamification of your country, how about you stop aiding and abetting Israel in their disgusting land grabs and empire building? How about that?
It's a great point, though. This is not, we brought this up before too. Ellis Island isn't Ellis Island anymore. That this, like the idea that people are just better off, in this foreign land to them
Mm.
versus over there. It's a tougher sell than it used to be.
Yes, and it decries and betrays something that's inherent in the Pope's apostolic exhortation just issued last week, the Lex Aetate, namely that it just assumes the superiority of the now host country of Islamic refugees whose refugee status has been created by the Greater Israel Project and the relentless bombing campaigns and regime change wars of which Anna speaks. I mean, you'd have to be an absolute fool and have no historical knowledge to understand that prior to, let's just go back to prior to 2001, prior to the war on terror launched at Israel's behest by the United States, which led to the slaughter of millions of people, that the Christian communities in the Holy Land, in places like Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, in Iraq, and yes, we're going to get to Iran. Interesting to note that because there hasn't been a full-scale war launched by the Tel Aviv, Washington, London, Brussels nexus and cabal against Iran, as we're going to allude to later on in the episode or just upcoming, Iranian Christians, many of them are Armenian, but like Anna Kasparian, point of fact, but many others enjoy a freedom of religion and are allowed to profess their faith and to continue to be Christians without daily bodily harm, insult, or injury perpetuated against them. And the Iranians are not leaving en masse. I mean, yes, there's been emigration, but much of the emigration out of Iran has been from the Jewish community. And by the way, if you really want to be honest and really just dig into this, even at surface, beyond surface level, there are videos and media that you can find very quickly online of the extant Iranian Jewish community right now living in Iran, talking about how they're happy being Jews in Iran. They're not molested, they're not harmed, they're not persecuted in any special way. They're allowed to carry on their faith, no matter how deeply dark and Talmudic it might be. And they're essentially left alone. Now, you could argue that the mullahs leave them alone because they're such a small and tiny percentage of the population. That's possible. But you cannot say that the expat Iranian Jewish community leaves the extant Iranian population alone because they are some of the most virulent Zionists around. They're the ones that are constantly orchestrating and even going back to the days of the Mossadegh coup in 53. The Zionist expat Iranians are the ones that are really pushing and pushing for regime change and intervention by Western powers in Iran.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really know any of that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know that
Why
there
it's hot water
were,
history, buddy.
yeah, I didn't even know there were Jews living in Iran.
Yes. Mm-hmm. They have a small community, but they have their own synagogues. So there you go. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's any further points or thoughts about that? Because I want to go to our second subject matter. I guess we could maybe my coda on this would be, I love you, Anna Kasparian. Just please keep going. I, we love your verve and audacity, your courage. Just you're a real blessing, and you're living out the beatitudes outlined by our Lord in the gospel, and it's just very nice to see.
I think we should switch. Do you want to switch gears to the church?
I thought we were going with the Erika Kirk thing.
Yeah, let's do that first, actually. It's kind of a weird. You've
How
got
do you transition to that?
you got one woman on one hand that's rising,
Yes.
and another woman in the country that seems to be falling.
Like a rock. Like a rock. Well, notice the distinction here, and it's clear the gulf that exists between them, between Anna Kasparian and Erika Kirk. Although we started out talking about what subject matters we were going to address tonight, we weren't going to compare the two, but let's go ahead because we're talking about their relative ascent on the one hand and descent on the other, is authenticity, right? When you're authentic and it comes through, even through the medium of YouTube and online videos and podcasts and web reports or what have you, it shines through. Genuine feeling, emotion, and real scholarship and knowledge, that ethos and pathos, along with the logos, go shines through and is convincing. It is persuasive. When you have nothing of that and you're a bad actress and you're constantly dabbing your eyes, whether it's at the Presidential Medal of Freedom ceremony yesterday with all of the grifters like Jack Posobiec, who still, by the way, despite being a close friend of Charlie, talking about how does anyone believe Tyler Robinson was the killer by this point? And this Posobiec is saying, I saw with my own eyes a leftist shoot down Charlie Kirk, my friend. Dude, uh, we're in on you. We know. We know. This is you're just part of the system. You're just one of the grifters that is churned out and you make a name for yourself. You came out of nowhere. You don't have any particular talents or attractive features, and you're just spouting out conservative ink stuff. There's a career obviously to be had in that. The Daily Wire, that's all they do. Matt Walsh and who's the Michael Knowles, they're all, fuck them. I can't. I have no time for any of them, right? But you can't. Thanks to work like by Ryan Mata and these people who are really pushing the issue, and Candace, to her credit. Someone posted something that I really think is profound. Maybe it was Milo that I saw today on Twitter. He's like, Candace Owens is acting like she was married to Charlie Kirk. She's the only woman
Mm.
who's acting like a true friend to him, reacting in the way that if, for example, I would expect you to react if I was shot, and vice versa. Yeah? I wouldn't expect you to go out and make I was Gary's close friend and former student co-host to the Hot Water History podcast and dab your eyes and accept awards and then go on podcasts and laugh it up within a day or two of my assassination, right? But she's out there. She's the head of TPUSA, and Ryan Mata is on it, and he's like, I'm not buying any of it. To the point where he just recently posted, just before we started recording, I saw he said something along the lines of, I don't know why I haven't seen it before. Here's your Republican presidential ticket. It's JD Vance and Erika Kirk as VP in 2028. It'd be interesting to see if that's what happens. It's really quite interesting too, because from our American history courses together that the reason LBJ won an overwhelming electoral landslide in 64 wasn't that he had some sort of compelling message in 64. He was Kennedy's heir, political heir. Not by Kennedy's choice, mind you, but by the systems, by the Israelis, by the globalist operative already, and especially the war-making and war-making industrial complex. So, yeah, the empire was definitely in LBJ's camp, but the ordinary American voter was swayed just because you had a dead president the year before they went to the polls.
Right place, right time.
Right place, right time. Yeah, I mean, of course, he robbed and cheated and stole his way up to the point of being a senator from Texas. But Landslide Lyndon was, by the way, a joke. Did you know that? His nickname was Landslide Lyndon. The only reason he was called that was because he won a Senate race in Texas by, I believe it was literally 100 votes. And it was from a town, a small rural town that had 200 voters in it. Guess how many voters from that small rural town voted for landslide Lyndon to put him over the edge? 200. Now, mind you, any electoral statistician will tell you that's a
200 and
mathematical,
oh,
yes, that's a
undefeated.
mathematical impossibility because there's voting error. There's a percentage of voting error that would render. Okay, so you can you can read more about that if you're.
That is it. That is funny. But we haven't really updated people on Erika Kirk. We haven't really talked about the entire situation since the episode we did. Give us a couple steps back
Yes.
on where you stand with Erika Kirk before we could play the video if you want. It's a pretty, I mean, or people can look it up, but you mentioned laughing it up on these podcasts. That's pretty bizarre. The White House lawn, crying, bizarre. It all seems
Not crying.
very
That's the thing. She's not crying.
fake crying.
Hmm.
It all seems very Shakespeare right now.
Yeah, Shakespeare was off Broadway. I mean, or off Globe. So, or Stratford. It's like not Stratford von Avon to be Stratford von Avon. That would be your quality of acting. I mean, she's a bad actress.
But what made
Covering
you
something up.
what made you originally skeptical of her?
Just okay. The the information what made me initially skeptical of her was what was it, the day or two after the assassination of her husband, she goes out and gives that really edited and formulaic, but it's supposed to be emotional, and we're all supposed to be because you're going to be sympathetic to a widow. You don't question at the time that the level of indoctrination and propaganda is just off the charts here. I mean, from the repeating words, she repeated words in a very Biden-esque fashion. When she goes to the podium, for example, she goes, "Oh, Jesus, help me." She whispers into the mic. No one does that. That's all performative, correct? If you were authentically mourning the death of your spouse, you wouldn't go and do a public display like that. And then, yeah, she's dabbing her face. She's not crying. It's all bad acting. And so that made me suspicious right away. She just reeks of being disingenuous and fake. Then the day after that, it's announced that TPUSA is going to be unanimously the board elected her to run the. Why? If you were a grieving widow and she constantly brings up the fact that her children have been left fatherless, the first thing you do is then want to run the extraordinarily time-consuming organization that your husband founded. Wouldn't you take care of your family? Make sure those kids are good? I would withdraw. You'd want to withdraw. I mean, it's not as if Jackie Kennedy went out and started doing a series of campaign speeches and rallies for LBJ, right? Or the Democrats in 64 and beyond. Now, she might have advocated for them later, but at the same time, in many ways, became more of a recluse. And I think actually she was honeypotted herself because the CIA set her up with this Greek guy who'd take care of her for the rest of her life. So she wouldn't report that it was actually the driver that turned around and shot her husband in the cavalcade. But those are just my theories. Um, then on top of that, you hear and have confirmed by very intrepid reporters that remind you in November of 1963 or in the spring of 68 or in the fall of 68 with MLK and RFK and other even let's go to the Reagan attempted assassination. You don't have the massive media, alternative media of at that time. Now we do. So we have men like Ryan Mata. We have people who are experts in body language and dramatics or drama and theater, and they know they pick up on the signs of all of this. And then you have just investigative reporters that go out and look and they say, wait a second, TPUSA had that State Farm Arena in Glendale reserved with no event scheduled before he was shot on September 10th? That seems odd. And that was only one upped in terms of weirdness by the whole weird memorial ceremony. By the way, where is Charlie Kirk buried? Where are his remains? There was an autopsy, but it's not released. There's a death certificate, but that's not released. I mean, it's just all these ridiculous inconsistencies. And what does it do? Whether it was the day after when she made that phony speech, fake sadness, or at that State Farm rally, which was a political rally with Charlie Kirk kind of off in the background. Trump's going to go out there, use that platform to garner more political support or sympathy. But she constantly keeps saying, I forgive that young man. I forgive that young man. It's just a means by which, through manipulation of our sensibilities and sensitivities, we are conditioned to not want to question who killed him because it sounds like it's an offense. It would be an offense to her and her seemingly, although I think false and not authentic, mercy that she extended toward him. Have you ever heard? I do give her a shred of credit that she said whoever did this in the first um, address. And by the way, I was listening to someone who said if you listen to the audio of that first address at the TPUSA headquarters or wherever it was in Phoenix afterwards, or wherever she gave that address, they actually pumped in like scratchy sound effects to make it sound less professional.
That's bizarre.
Yes, you can listen to it. It's and the person who I listened to, I forget who what her name is, but she's a professional actress and she teaches theater. And she did an analysis and she said this woman's totally fake. She said, yeah, the pumping in of those sound effects. TPUSA has the most advanced audio and visual tech equipment that any organization probably in the world is able to utilize. And they made the sound very grainy to make it look more rustic and real rather than contrived and highly produced, which it was, address, propagandic in nature. I mean, Leni Riefenstahl would be envious of these people. She was the chief propagandist of the Nazis.
Wow. Do you want to play the video?
Yes, let's go ahead and do that.
Spirit of religious devotion. He was one of the great debaters and communicators of his time. Despite receiving repeated threats, he remained undeterred and modeled courage, logic, humor, and grace to the next generation. On September 10th, 2025, at age 31, Charlie Kirk was assassinated while addressing a group of students. The United States honors him as a martyr for truth and freedom.
How does she strike you, Charlie? I mean, we haven't even gone into the complications of how she became prominent. She's a beauty contestant at 17. She wins Miss Arizona, right? She's connected already to Trump. Trump knows her. She came out of nowhere, by the way, to win that pageant. How is that? Oh, maybe it's because she already had her and her family well-established contacts with the American Defense Department, the American State Department, the NSA. Her father and mother worked at GE and other firms. In fact, her mother formed a tech firm that was in open and had open contracts with the Department of Defense and other massive entities within the federal government and in intelligence communities. So these are not disconnected people. This is not an organic woman by any stretch of the imagination. And then throw in I don't know if it's where they met, but from all accounts, it's where they fostered their relationship and fell in love. Where did they do that? Do you know? In Israel,
Oh,
she and
I didn't
Charlie.
know that.
Yeah. Then there's this account of her founding and supporting an orphanage in Romania that had, despite what Grok will tell you, because I ran it through Grok, and Grok is pretty woke right now. It's being very careful. There, that charity, which was, by the way, the most amount of funding. Guess what? Guess what? There were NGOs and then there were governmental organizations funding that Romanian orphanage. Guess what were the two governmental organizations that were heavily involved? NATO? Not kidding. NATO, because the orphanage was in Constanta, which is the largest Romanian city on the Black Sea. It's also very proximate to, oh, guess what? Still, the what's going to be the largest NATO base in the world being constructed right there on the Black Sea. So poor Romanians and orphans were being subjected to this. She was giving out from the age of, I want to say 17 to 21, she was affiliated with it. And later this was connected. Constanta as a city has long been synonymous with child and sex trafficking. And this orphanage mysteriously shut down right after she left, or she was no longer affiliated with it, and has been tied. The Romanian government saw to it that it was shut down. Now, I've read other sources like and using AI where the Grok and other AI sources will say, well, it just sort of fizzled out. Yeah. What institutions founded by and authorized and funded by NATO and the US military
Just fizzle out.
just fizzle out? It just kind of didn't work out, right? And the local population came to from accounts that I've picked up and heard from secondhand, and I haven't seen the actual because I don't read Romanian, and I haven't even translated any of the sources. But the local population was absolutely unnerved when they find out that these orphans are nowhere to be found. So, yeah, it just strikes me. Also, I'm going to be so bold as to supposedly she was the entryway for Charlie to examine Catholicism. I I don't think that's the case. She describes herself as being a somewhat faithful Catholic, but she also has said on other occasions, first of all, what's with all the Zionism then? And then on second hand, and this is her personal curriculum vitae, she did go to a Catholic high school, Notre Dame High School in, I want to say Scottsdale in Arizona. That's where she graduated from. And then she matriculated onto, I want to say Arizona State. And then she spent a year at Regis in Denver, the Jesuit university there, but only a year. And she was a basketball player there. I don't know how she arranged that, being maybe that was a graduate year or an allowance that she was able, but she only stayed there a year. And then she matriculated on to and she's apparently still pursuing her PhD in Christian leadership from an evangelical university. It's Liberty University in Virginia, right? I think it's in Virginia, Maryland, something like that. So she has said that her Catholicism really reflects a lot of evangelical tenets as well and elements. Those two things are radically incompatible, especially if she's going to do the Zionist evangelism. So it leads me to question, and I've seen rumors about this, that the marriage was very rocky. There were problems, and that just 2 months prior or a few months prior, that Charlie had sought either separation or even a means by which to dissolve the marriage. So it's not the way what we're presented is certainly not reality. And anyone who thinks that, I think I would go so far as to argue anyone who thinks that that sad sack of an actress is an authentic, devoted Catholic wife of Charlie Kirk. I suspect, I, in in an ironic sense, the woman who is reacting more like her, like she was the widow, was the person who was really pulling him toward Catholicism. That's Candace Owens. That's my suspicion. I also think too there were just so many people like Dave DeCamp who's a faithful Catholic, or Daniel McAdams at the Ron Paul Institute. These devoted Catholics who have both a faith and an immense capacity, just a almost limitless talent and capacity to argue for that which is good and godly, and do so with such fervent consistency. Um, like I said, and is what's been revealed by Kansas through the text, he had no choice. This is Charlie's own words. He had no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel cause. Is there any, is there any lick of information or element that has come out that said Erika Kirk is anything but an ardent Zionist? I mean, everybody says, hey, it's funny. Netanyahu is so quick, thou doth protest too much, to say, we did not do this. This is, I can't believe this is anyone who would say that this is anti-Semitic. Of course, I have to say this twice because only the most irrational people would connect us, the most murderous regime in modern human history, who is sublimely effective, if you want to call it sublimely, but effective at political assassination. We would never do this, even though it's come out and he was such an ardent Zionist. Well, guess what? His wife, they had no problem with his wife. Doesn't it lead to a logical question? Was his wife probably had a problem with that? And people are right to say that as he leaned toward Catholicism, that very much would alarm the evangelical Christian Zionists, which in turn would alarm to the point of, if you believe the reports from the Hamilton's meeting, would alarm the actual Zionists and the billionaire class of donors who are pulling more and more funds and becoming all the more not just abusive but aggressively threatening of Charlie. I mean, to the point where we have individuals coming out and saying, "Look, Charlie said 2 nights before his actual assassination that I think they're going to kill me." And then you get Kash Patel out there. Oh, it was a trans gunman, and here are the text messages. Don't look anywhere else. Don't look anywhere else. We're taking care of it. The FBI is taking care of this investigation the same way they're taking care of the Las Vegas shooting investigation. Which way did he go, George? Which way did he go? The old cartoon said. They're just a bunch of Mr. Magoo's. And they're Mr. Magoo's by willful blindness. You want to get into Iran?
Yeah, good run there.
I want to literally get into Iran. I tell you what, how I've stated over and over again, and I've even written articles sympathetic to especially the Iranian people, not necessarily sympathetic to the Iranian regime, because I'm not sympathetic to any regime. I'm an ANCAP. That's what the license provides for me, right? But toward Persian and Iranian culture, history, society, if people ask me if I could just go anywhere if I had just limitless funds and capability and time, I'd go to Russia and Iran. Seriously. And then I think my third destination would be Paraguay, because Paraguay is becoming a kind of libertarian / anti.
Really?
Yes. Take a look.
What's the city? What's the best city to go?
La Paz.
Okay.
La Paz in Paraguay. I mean, it's being built up. It was destitute and poor, one of the poorest, if not, along with Bolivia, the poorest country in the Southern Hemisphere, and Southern American Hemisphere. So in South America, I should just say. But yeah, it's I know Tom Woods has that guy Mikkel Thorup on, who always talks about expat. You have to have a plan to get out and stuff of that nature. And he lives in Panama, which is a big destination. But a lot of people are going to Paraguay. Cost of living is so low. There's immense economic opportunity. It's mineral rich. It's replete with natural resources, beauty. It has mountains. It has pretty much every kind of landscape and climb.
I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm all in.
For all of it, Iran, Russia, and Paraguay.
No, Paraguay.
Just Paraguay. But what if we showed a video of how in the capital city of Tehran, the supposedly theocratic, bloodthirsty, anti-Christian mullah regime, right, dominated by these Islamic fundamentalists? Well, their newest subway train station is dedicated to who? Muhammad? Khaditha? No? How about any of the caliphs? No? Who's it dedicated to, Charlie?
St. Mary.
Oh, so we have a station in Iran called from, and this is from the Persian, Herat Maryam Magadosas, which means St. Mary's Station or Holy Virgin Mary Station. Let's go play the clip.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. And what did our faithful little correspondent or reporter say there? You ain't gonna find that in Tel Aviv, are you? Right? Because whereas, yes, I'm not saying that the Shiite Muslims who dominate Iran in a cultural, social, or in governmental spheres are not ardent Islamists. They are. They are. But there is a much greater allowance. They are not murderous Islamic supremacists. They're not Wahhabis. They're not ISIS. They're not Al Qaeda. Whereas the United States of Israel is in charge of putting those Islamic supremacists in power. Right? To what? To the destruction of the Christian population in Syria. Al Jihadi, again, I mean, does no one realize this guy was on the FBI most wanted list? He had a what, $10 million head reward out for his head, and now he's the ensconced by Israel president and by the United States and CIA as the successful. Trump called him good looking and handsome president of Syria, allowing for the Israelis and ISIS. By the way, they seem to always work together a lot. Destroying Christian towns and the population, the Christian and Druze populations not Jewish, Druze populations in Syria. At the same time, in Iran, Mary has her own train station.
The devil hates Mary.
Oh, with a passion. From the beginning, the new Eve. The new Eve. He hated the old Eve. He really detests the new one. I mean, she's instrumental in his destruction in the end, isn't she?
Yeah.
Stomping on his head. So, yeah. From time to time, I go on expat channels and see, hey, man, good apartment area in Tehran. I have to admit that I used to do that a lot with Beirut. I always wanted to go check out what it was like in Beirut and live in Lebanon. So that's what I do.
Do you want to talk about a town that also doesn't have a train station
Oh, God
dedicated
forbid.
to St. Mary?
Yeah, right. Where would you rather live, Tehran or Oak Park? I'm sorry. I'm going with Tehran.
Here it is.
Meanwhile in Oak Park.
Should we go to your gay suburb now?
People segment. Meanwhile in Oak Park, brought to you by Tridentine Brewing.
And the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Oak Park considers new grants for small businesses. Proposed village-sponsored grants could be worth as much as $6,000.
Whoopee! That's half your tax bill. Right? It's gonna be half your tax bill, if that. It'll be a third of your tax bill after a year.
Oak Park's village board heard proposals from village staff last week about a new grant program that would support local businesses. Village staff proposed 3 new grant programs to support businesses making physical improvements to their spaces. The proposed grants would support small businesses updating their fire safety systems, making investments to be more climate friendly, or improving the interiors of their storefronts. The proposal comes after the village staff heard from business owners looking for financial help from the village to help them comply with Oak Park codes and thrive in the community, according to village staff.
Are there no banks in this town?
I don't know. Quote, staff have received an increase of inquiries from business owners who need financial support to adhere to certain village requirements. Staff wrote in documents supporting the agenda item.
This is pretty literal rent seeking, huh?
This action would alleviate some financial burden from small business owners for unexpected costs as they navigate through the municipal process. The 3 new proposed grants would cover 50% of a business's investment into its fire safety, environmental sustainability, or interior facade up to a certain maximum dollar amount depending on the category of improvement. Climate improvement grants could be issued for a 50% price match up to $6,000 and be used to help cover investments in things like energy efficient lighting, zero waste programs, solar panel installation, and more. This grant would be available to any business or commercial property owner in the village, but if an applicant's business operates in a space that's 10,000 square feet or larger, then it must be in compliance with the village's energy benchmarking ordinance to receive the grant support.
What kind of crack do you have to be on to open up a business or maintain a business in Oak Park? Why would you why would you ever do that?
Fire safety improvement grants could be issued for a 50% match up to $3,500 and be used by businesses to support the installation of a new fire alarm or sprinkler system or help cover the cost of bringing existing fire systems up to village code, according to the proposal. The interior storefront improvement grants could be issued for a 50% match up to $5,000 and be used to cover improvements, including new HVAC system improvements, plumbing improvements, painting, flooring, and more, according to the proposal. These grants would only be available to new businesses that produce sales tax revenue, as is the case for the exterior commercial facade improvement grant program the village has had on its books since 2018. Oak Park is a facade. Oak Park is just one big
It's a big
facade.
scam. It's just a big criminal enterprise.
Oak Park home to study of aging in community.
You know, too, with that the grant thing, that's going to be so prone to corruption, correct? And who's going to oversee all of that? Did they properly install the zero waste emissions policy, correct? Some company's going to go in there and say, "All right, give me $6,000. I'll write you that I did this and we're off." Right?
Right.
Meanwhile, who's holding the bag but the Oak Park and Illinois and even federal taxpayer to the extent that it's somewhat subsidized, I'm sure.
Yale scholar speaking Thursday on purpose of first of its kind study. Dr. Becca Levy, author of Breaking the Age Code.
Oh,
Aging in Oak Park, ageism awareness. I'm not gonna people kind of already got this vibe from me, but I'm pretty ageist.
yes, me too. And I'll tell you what, I, in all defense, I'm ageist from a very subjective standpoint because I'm not. We've encountered these people at various conservative and libertarian conferences, haven't we, Charlie?
The anti-aging.
The anti-aging crowd, they are the weirdest, creepiest people you could have, you could encounter.
But in general, ageism.
Yeah, they hate getting older. They despise it with all their being, and so they're really looking out. And they, whether it's Peter Thiel or somebody else, Elon Musk, even though they might disagree with them politically, whatever their transhumanism steps that could be taken to elongate their lives, they're going to take them. No,
In city,
nothing stopping these people. They're adrenochrome bound. Let's just say
in cities and neighborhoods across America, residents of a certain age often face an unspoken yet peculiar and unrelenting feeling,
they're going to die.
a notion that the place in which they've proudly lived for so long is simply put no longer home. Other adults face the typical changes that come with aging, such as no longer needing the two-story home when all the kids have grown up and moved out, and needing a little extra help around the house with chores as physical limitations or health challenges arise. But for others, the skyrocketing costs of everyday living, exodus of fellow longtime neighbors due to climbing property taxes, and
Oh,
lack of programs and events tailored toward their age demographic are just a few of many reasons why social isolation and other issues are quickly creeping into communities around the country with rising older adult populations, Oak Park included.
mm. Boomer USA.
Enter Aging in Communities, a village government commission that works to advise to address the evolving needs and interests in Oak Park's ever rising demographic and to develop a community wide lens to identify not only programs and services for the town's residents over 65, but raise awareness toward inclusivity and thriving community livability for everyone. Mark Blessoff, who has called the village home for 40 years, is one of the commission's founding members and currently serves as the group's chairperson.
This guy doesn't have a sadomasochistic streak, right?
According to 2020 census data, Oak Park residents over the age of 55 make up approximately 28.5% of the village's population. With the growing number of older residents in mind, Blessoff says the timing has never been better to pay attention to the issue of healthy and mindful aging in the community. So COVID didn't kill them all.
Right. And they tried with the boost.
28.5% is a lot.
Oh, it's huge. I mean,
55?
those are Japanese levels of senility. They might as well Oak Park might as well be a small Japanese island.
Quote,
No obstetricians needed here.
quote, we are in a new phase for our species and the local implications are existential. We have added more longevity to our species since 1900 than all of previous civilization, he said. We cannot just do more of what we've been doing for the past 75 years. We must adjust to the new reality.
And here's your Neuralink chip and another COVID booster.
That's why the committee is hosting a special program on Thursday, October 9th from 6
Oh,
to 8 p.m.
it passed. We couldn't attend.
at Pilgrim Congregational Church in recognition of Aging Awareness Day. We didn't get to celebrate with Dr. Becca Levy, a professor of epidemiology at the Yale School of Public Health and leading authority on how beliefs about aging influence health.
What a career.
At the Ageism Awareness Day discussion, Levy will discuss an Oak Park research project and share how, as demonstrated in her 2022 book, 2022 author, Breaking the Age Code, people with positive age beliefs live an average of 7.5 years longer than those who fear and deny aging. Not only is Levy going to be speaking to Oak Parkers, but she's also leading the charge on a special research project in town regarding the beliefs of older people in an effort to address both internalized ageism from individuals as well as, this is a new one, systemic ageism through
Yeah.
local policies and culture. Systemic ageism.
I'm in favor of both. Can I go to the meeting?
Levy caught wind of Oak Park and its Aging and Communities Commission after Blessoff read her book and reached out to her to pitch Oak Park as a possible future case study. In her book, she talks about a quote town without ageism in Greensboro, Vermont, he said.
Yeah, because what choice do they have? They can't hate everything. I mean, I'll tell you what, there's no one under 90 in Greensboro, Vermont, right? The cows are old. They don't produce milk. They're so old in Greensboro, Vermont. Yeah, that's nothing like the state of Vermont to be your model for a society.
Quote, where was I? I woke up one morning after finishing her book and thought, what if Becca Levy used Oak Park as her guinea pig for research? Greensboro is rural, small, mostly white, mostly well off, while Oak Park is larger, urban, and mixed, racially, culturally, and economically. So I sent her an email. She responded, and we've been at it ever since.
Uh-oh.
Levy's project in Oak Park holds significance for a few reasons. One, because of her worldwide status in this field of study.
And her open lesbianism. Nope.
And because a study of this type has never been done before.
Wait a second. I thought she did one in Greensboro, Vermont. Anyway, go ahead. Don't backtrack.
In early September, Levy met with a special action community engagement team with members including Blessoff, Pamela Mon, director of Oak Park's Senior Disability Service, and Monica Robinson, with collaboration from 2 research project coordinators. The research project is based on a $200,000 private foundation grant. It is composed of small groups of 8 to 10 people, facilitated by a group leader, which meets once a week for 6 one-hour sessions.
Ugh.
And though engagement in local community projects and support from aging in communities, existing community partnerships, the goal of the study is to establish a baseline, facilitate an intervention, and see if there have been any changes since interventions have been put into place. Baseline research is expected to conclude at the end of October. Oh my gosh. Quote, most people are hungry to talk about conscious aging and living with intention, especially after hearing or experiencing examples of a new vision of aging, Blessoff said. At this early stage of raising consciousness about this topic, it's like planting seeds all over the place. The Levy Research Project will be like a watering can on those seeds.
Oh, I think they should just be straightforward with them and say you're going to die soon.
And then there's a related article, if anybody's interested, from November 2022, which is titled Ageism, a Public Health Issue. Letters to the editor,
Oh
Cyrus
yeah.
Guzdar. Wake up in woke park. Quotes woke park. And this is another response to our friend Mark.
Mark Nickelbine.
Yep.
Oh boy. They just keep coming in, huh?
I felt compelled to respond to a recently run opinion piece concerning, quote, woke park. This is, he's addressing Mark. Hi, Mark. I've lived in Oak Park for years, and let me tell you what I experience. I live in a community governed by care for all human beings, where we don't live in ignorance and fear of anyone slightly different than ourselves.
Yes, you do.
We don't support a campaign of cruelty by a pathetic wannabe dictator whose administration revels in the bigotry and harm they're imposing on fellow human beings. You're scared of yard signs because they espouse progressive and not ignorant values.
Oh, well, progressive, anything not progressive is ignorant.
Here's the move to a community play. You're more than welcome to move to a community that
Mhm.
embraces your wannabe dictator with
He likes
yard
wanna he likes
signs
wannabe, as if that's a word in English, but go ahead.
with yard signs reveling in hate and bigotry. You also seem scared of books written by anyone without your narrow worldview. No one is forcing you to read anything, but typical conservative that you are, you feel the need to impose your bigoted views on others and limit what should be read.
The progressive is saying that the conservative who speaks of some of the more uh, audacious, uh, forceful and coercive measures of this and the broad lawns, narrow minds dynamic of Hemingway being alive and well there. He's the one that's being narrow-minded. Okay. Good luck. Good luck with that. Yeah, because progressives never use coercion, right? Even though the institution of preference is built upon and exists, its very essence is in anti-voluntarism. But go ahead.
You complain about the schools being only very good? Move to a red state where education is far worse if you'd like to. And
Mm.
yes, educated people who care about others have long been concerned with poor police interactions with the community. Complaining about lessening greenhouse gases seems like an odd complaint, but conservatives today are unserious bigots who only focus on silly culture wars.
So much for that tolerance in Oak Park, huh?
I live someplace where we don't choose hatred and bigotry, but acceptance and inclusion,
He can't do
as
it.
shown by the previous sentence, right?
Yes, exactly. How can you write that? How can you possibly write that first sentence in that paragraph and then
How do
approve
you
the second one?
enter a tab on the next paragraph after that with a straight face?
Yeah. We're
Yes,
all
we do.
about care of everyone in the village, except you fucking racist bigot assholes. Get the
Yes.
fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Move somewhere else. That's what
Yeah.
inclusion means.
Yes, we don't support the cruelty of ICE who are doing nothing but instilling fear into the communities of good, hardworking families.
Oh, I think they're doing more than that. They're deporting people who are here illegally. It's not just about instilling fear.
Tell us more about how ripping naked children out of bed in the middle of the night, as agents responded with glee on the South Shore, makes us better or safer.
Yeah, where are these guys with Alien Gonzalez and the Cuban thing during the Clinton administration? Oh, yeah. All right, go ahead. Sorry. A little
Also,
history for you.
it turns out you need tax revenue to build a shining community. Feel free to move to a low tax Republican area and see how your experience with services and schools differs.
Yeah, it's amazing. In fact, the the people are so overwhelmed with the superiority of Oak Park governmental public services and schools, and Illinois for that matter, that outmigration from Illinois surpasses nearly every other state, and by far surpasses every other Midwestern state in the union. But keep going. What's this tool's name?
Cyrus?
Cyrus. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Your last comment about dogs at farmers market is strange and keeping with the angry, unhinged nature of Republicans today.
Did Mark even identify as a Republican? But the assumption is
No,
pretty
no, this
interesting.
is just about Woke
Yeah.
Park.
Yeah.
I, for one, am happy to live in a place where we lead with acceptance and kindness
This is all about divisiveness and hatred. This whole screen.
and make decisions using facts, not cruelty and bigotry. You complain so much about Oak Park, yet have had the opportunity to leave for decades and haven't taken it. Turns out it's actually a pretty great and special place. And those who use the term woke derisively generally have nothing other than ignorance and bigotry to espouse.
Boy, he loves ignorance, bigotry, espouse, wannabe. Ugh, what a horrible. Hey, Cyrus, here's something that's very unaccepting. You fucking suck as a writer. How's that? And I could say that from here, outside of Oak Park, to you in Oak Park.
There it is, people.
Boom.
The people segment. Meanwhile, in Oak Park.
Meanwhile in Oak Park.
What would have happened if I'd gone for it and just said, no, I'm gay?
These letters to the editor mini segments within a segment.
We've
Really-
unlocked something
really
with
popping.
we've unlocked something here. Going
Yeah,
to the opinion pieces.
I think our the hot water history trick of treats to give to the world for Halloween should be a collaborative letter to the editor from your humble hosts. What do you think?
I mean, I don't get how Marx got through.
Right, but at least we could write one. Who knows? And even if they don't publish it,
Well,
we
they're
could
probably
publish
getting
it.
more engagement than ever.
Yes, right. So they should be happy about it.
I mean, it's back-to-back weeks of having a letter to the editor.
Yes. Yeah,
So
because we all know the incredible open-minded
acceptance.
exchange and acceptance that Oak Parkers have when people come out and say maybe they shouldn't have a drag queen story hour of trannies at Oak Park Library, or maybe the village's money should go less to racial integration studies and anti-ageism programs, and actually maybe just, I don't know, filling a pothole once in a while on Lake Street or Oak Park Avenue or East Avenue. Ah, mm, right. That's tough to deal with.
You got anything else?
Oh, that's it. We threw a lot out there. This is a chocked full big episode. So I'm happy. How about you?
Yeah, a lot
All
of
right.
good topics. Good
Yeah,
Oak
good
Park.
topics. God bless Anna Kasparian. Good. God bless the mayor and whoever the leaders are in Tehran, Iran, for honoring Our Lady, and Ryan Mata and all the investigative reporters who are coming to the rightful conclusion that Erika Kirk is full of shit. How's that for an end?
That's a good close.
That is a good close. That's a good conclusion.
All right, everyone.
All right.
God
God bless.
bless.
Peace.